and
And
your
how has
world.
that realisation affected your life?
Well, it's made me much more aware of the fact that each of us has a responsibility in our own every moment that we live in terms of what we think and what we do. It doesn't make me a perfect human being because I still don't have very nice thoughts sometimes, or don't, react nastily and sometimes. But what this has also made me realise is that the moment is all that we have, and what you do and what you think and how you act in that moment is important because it will have an effect on everything and everybody else around us. This conversation will affect people, And the idea of living in the moment, which there are books written about, is essential because you have to appreciate the moment with every sense that you have available, with your hands, with your sight, with feeling, with everything, to make the most of it, to learn from it, and to move on from that in your life. There's nothing else beyond that, and you should recognise that the intent of the moment will affect everybody else, and likewise is affecting you as well. But you become much more centred as an individual and much more less worried about what's going to happen in the future and what's happened in the past, because you move in a different way, really.
But going back to the conversation we were having earlier about the point and your point and my point, and you were hinting they might be the same point. But can the point, the I, really live in the moment?
Well, I think it's something we all yearn to do. This is the idea of the dual universe and the duality striving to become one again. That's what this I am that I am, the idea of that you have the spiritual side and your physical side, and the duals are separate, but there's a bit of one and the other, and they can interchange, and they're striving to become one. And the universal I, looking at itself, learning, wanting, is what it's all about, really. And how you can't be one and the other. You can't. You get flashes of living in that unity, and then you're back into being a separate person again. And through meditation, when you switch off your senses totally and just use your inner eye, that's when you get your best experiences. And that can be an instantaneous one where you're just sort of dwelling on nothing in particular, you're relaxing in the bath or having a cup of tea, that's meditation as well.
So it just happens on its own somehow.
That sudden insight when you've really switched off your external senses and worrying about what you're doing and where you are and what you're eating and what you've got and what you haven't got, but you look inside, you can get those flashes of insight of connectedness and oneness, and that's when you have that sense. And we're all sort of striving to get back to that place or wherever it is, that sense of really being connected and at one with everything else.
I think we're all somehow striving to get away from where we are. Whether we know we want to go back to the one, I wouldn't say necessarily applies to everybody, but I think
I
it's
agree,
true.
yes, I agree totally. And it's an interesting one because some people get so carried away with trying to just relive those moments, they actually forget that they're here to do a job and that's why you're here. You're here to do something and get on with it and have effects on other people, and whatever the reason that you're here, whatever. All of us, because we're all connected at the end of the day, we're all part and parcel of the same evolutionary path, and we're all contributing to it in some way, and you have to be grounded. And if you're not grounded, then you're off somewhere else and you're not getting on with it, and you can actually get a bit schizophrenic and lose the plot a bit. So you have to be grounded and realise that we are here to do a job. And but those insights are wonderful when they happen because they make you realise they're like an affirmation of your existence.
Right. So I think you said in the foreword to the book there's actually 3 other books coming?
Yes, basically because when I started researching this and found it was absolutely everything. It's in sound, it's in light, it's in our bodies, it's in so many things, organic material and inorganic material, that the book got rather large and you could have made a coffee table out of it, so I had to and it lost what it was meant to be, because basically I'm trying to reintroduce the language of geometry to a wider audience, to remind people what it's all about, and to try and simplify that and put it in a very visual form. We've used 700 illustrations in there because these concepts are quite difficult to convey and get away from the mathematics. It is a very visual subject.
Yes.
And it's difficult to describe, as you've seen through this interview. Me trying to describe what it's all about, is much easier. I've got lots of pictures there. And it's an important part of our lives that we need to be reminded of. And it was just too much as one book because it's in everything. So I've sliced it up. It's actually going to be 4 books.
Yeah, wow.
And the next one looks at introduces colour and sound and emotion. And the third one is to do with the human being.
Yeah.
And the fourth one is very much about intuition.
Yeah.
So this one, the reason it's black and white is so you're not distracted by colour. It's very specifically about the framework that reality forms itself on. No colour, no sound. It's just the basics, if you like, that around which we can structure our thoughts and structure time and structure these ideas. Without the square, circle and triangle, we could not think the words I am here now. Not only could we not think them, we couldn't actually be them, and we couldn't live them.
Have you actually got a symbol here that shows I am here now?
Well, it is essentially
this one here.
The one here.
That's the one you showed earlier,
And
yeah.
I am.
So let's show that to the camera.
Sorry,
so
yeah.
that's I am here now.
I am is the 2 triangles,
yeah.
and there's 2 facets to I am. I am that I am. This is the dual aspects. There's the you and there's your reflected self. So there's the spiritual you and there's the physical you. So I am that I am. I am here in this point in time is this square, and you're here at the centre of your own square, your grid reference in space. Now is obviously you're on the centre of your own circle.
Right.
So there are events, you're in your own events, but at the end of the day we're all in the same I am here now, but we appear to be separate. And that's where quantum physics is finding, there's actually nothing down at a quantum level and there's nothing out there, because the all-encompassing void that encompasses everything has everything in it. It's a sort of, again, this dual aspect of the idea of the dimensionless point. How can something exist but have no dimensions? It's there but it isn't there. It's really difficult to get our brains around it, our physical brains around something that's so intangible, beyond our capability. And that's why we use symbols to represent these ideas. It doesn't make the point real, though. It still has no dimensions.
Yeah.
So that basically it's summed up here. The cross, which I also cover in the book, the cross is what brings you into the centre. And the cross is about suffering, which is why the idea of Christ suffering on the cross, because it brings us to our heart, which is where we feel all the emotions and we feel the effects of our choices in life. So in our moment in time, we make decisions and we make choices, and there will be an emotional aspect to that, and that's how we learn. So you will sit there and you'll say, I am going to do this, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to have this conversation. And that's the idea of living in the moment and making yourself consciously aware that everything you do in every moment in time has an impact. And you feel the result of those in your body as emotions. And by going to the centre of it, that awareness is heightened, if you like. And the spiral is all to do with evolution and sharing. Without sharing experiences, we wouldn't grow as individuals. We would be totally individual and isolated. And it's through sharing that patterns are formed and evolution occurs. And the spiral also takes us back to the centre, brings us out to the side and takes us back. And a lot of models in Buddhism and Hinduism talk about moving into the centre, and you do that along the spiral. So when you meditate, you're actually taken there via the spiral. And the spiral is the life force that connects everything back to the middle. So this simple diagram combines all those principles. The I am here now, learning for this purpose, doing these things, which is what the cross is there to remind us of. And at the end of the day, we're all on the same path of evolution.
Okay, well, thank you.
So
all right, well, thanks very much for coming in,
that's okay.
Karen. And just to remind people, this is the book we're talking about, Gateway to the Heavens, and thank you for watching Conscious TV. Goodbye.